This video is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc. with free weekly content and free shipping on orders over $150. You can save 5% site-wide by using the promo code MTGMudsta. If you're looking for a direct way to help the channel, please consider joining my Patreon and becoming a member of the generic Goblin Gang. Hey gang, and welcome back. Today, Seb, Maxim, Marie, and Felix have rejoined us, with Seb playing the Alela precon from the new Wilds of Eldraine. They keep Swamp, Island, Halo Forager, Command Tower, Choked Estuary, Opt, and a Blightwing Bandit. Maxim is playing his strictly not CDH Oswald deck, keeping 2 Plains, Shadow Spear, Brought Back, Sculpting Steel, Ichor Wellspring, and a Generous Gift. Marie has decided to follow Seb's example playing the Zhulodok precon, and she keeps Mirage Mirror, Soul Ring, Titan's Presence, Endless Atlas, Seagate Wreckage, Scavenger Grounds, and a Wastes. Last but not least, Felix has dusted off his trusty Cadric deck, and he's going to keep Wayfarer's Bauble, Yosei the Morningstar, Felwar Stone, Smothering Tithe, Scavenger Grounds, and 2 Plains. Seb wins the die roll and starts us off. They play a Choked Estuary, revealing a swamp till it comes in untapped. Maxim draws, playing a Plains and casting Shadow Spear. Marie plays a Seagate Wreckage and taps it for a Soul Ring. She then taps the Soul Ring for an Endless Atlas. She passes after that. Felix plays a Plains and casts Wayfarer's Bauble. Seb's got an Island and passes. Max plays another Plains and pays 2 to cast Ichor Wellspring, drawing a card as it enters. He passes after that. Marie plays a Wastes and pays 3 mana for a Mirage Mirror before passing her turn. Felix drops a Scavenger Grounds as his land for turn, and then pays 2 to sacrifice it for a Mountain. Seb draws, plays a Swamp, and passes yet again. Max has a Plains for turn, and then taps enough for Oswald and passes to Marie. Marie plays her own copy of Scavenger Grounds, and then casts a Fire Shrieker, passing after that. Felix draws and plays a Plains. He then taps 4 for everyone's favorite card, Smothering Tithe, and passes after that. Seb draws but declines to pay for the Smothering Tithe. They then play an Island and cast Blightwing Bandit, passing to Max. Max has a Plains, and then activates Oswald, sacrificing the Wellspring to draw a card and then go and find Basalt Monolith. He then taps the Monolith to help cast Hedron Archive, and then taps the Archive to help cast Voltaic Servant. He then passes, and during his end step, he gets to untap the Monolith with a Voltaic Servant trigger. Marie draws, playing a Tomb of the Spirit Dragon. She has enough mana at this point for a turn 4 Zhulodok, and passes to Felix after that. Felix draws and plays Felwar Stone, and then casts his commander, Cadric, and passes. Seb plays a Command Tower, and they then play Alela before moving to combat. Seb swings the Blightwing Bandit at Max for 2, and Max takes the hit, and with nothing else, Seb passes. Maxim draws and casts Sculpting Steel, having it come as a copy of the Voltaic Servant. He then plays a Potion of Healing, drawing a card as it enters. He then plays a Plains for turn. He then activates Oswald, sacrificing the potion, and goes to find a Scrap Trawler to put to field. He then passes turn, and gets to untap his Monolith and Hedron Archive thanks to the 2 Servant triggers at the end step. Marie has a Dreamstone Hedron in her main phase, and moving to combat, she swings Zhulodok at Max, who blocks with a Sculpting Steel copy of the Voltaic Servant. With nothing else, Marie passes. Felix draws and plays Staff of the Storyteller, which as it comes in, makes him a 1/1 Spirit token and a counter on it. He then removes the counter from the staff to draw a card, and then casts Magda, and when she hits the field, pays for the ability of Cadric to make a copy, and gets to put another counter onto the staff. Going to combat, Felix swings the Magda copy at Maxim, and Cadric at Marie, and gets to make a total of 4 treasures from tapping 2 dwarves. They then both take the hits, and Felix passes. During Felix's end step, Seb cast Op before moving to their turn. Seb draws and plays an island. They once more go at Max, swinging the Blightwing at him, and pass after that. Max draws and plays a Gilded Lotus. He then plays Blade Griff Prototype, and then a Lightning Greaves, which he then equips onto the Griff. Moving to combat, he swings the Scrap Trawler at Felix and the Prototype at Marie. Both take the damage, and Max targets the Smothering Tithe with the Prototype's trigger. Felix responds however with a Boros Charm to save it, and after the charm resolves, Max then activates Shadow Spear to remove the indestructibility. The Smothering Tithe then finally dies, and Max untaps his Gilded Lotus with the Voltaic Servant trigger as he passes turn. Marie draws and has her Mirage Mirror become a copy of Dreamstone Hedron. She then taps out to cast Kozilek the Great Distortion, and Seb responds to the triggers by flashing an Obira and gets to exile her top card thanks to the Blightwing trigger before Marie cascades. She then cascades into a Maze Mind Tome and a Spatial Contortion. She uses the Contortion to kill Oswald, and then resolves the Kozilek trigger, which has Marie drawing up until she has 7 cards in hand. She then plays a Waste for turn and passes to Felix. Felix draws and activates the staff again to draw a card. He then plays a Determined Iteration, and once that's out, casts Yosei. With the legendary dragon on the stack, Max responds by casting Generous Gift and targets Cadric. Cadric gets destroyed, and Felix makes a 3/3 in his place. Felix then goes to combat and attacks Seb with Magda, who takes the hit. In his post-combat main phase, Felix then cracks a treasure to cast Stone of Erich, and then passes turn. During Felix's end step though, Seb flashes in a Malleable Imposter, which they have come in as a copy of Kozilek, and everyone then takes 1 from Elvira. Seb draws and plays a Swamp. They go to combat and swing Kozilek at Max and the Fairy Token at Marie and Felix. Everyone declares no blocks, but Marie activates her tome in response to scry 1. With the creatures connecting, Seb then gets to goad the Scrap Trawler, Kozilek, and Yosei with Alela's triggers. With nothing else, they pass. Max draws and goes to combat. He swings the Blade Griff Prototype at Marie and the Scrap Trawler at Felix, and both take the hits. This time around, the Prototype destroys Seb's Kozilek copy, and after combat, Max sacrifices his Hedron Archive to draw 2, and brings back the Sculpting Steel to hand thanks to the Scrap Trawler trigger. He follows up by casting a Bronze Guardian, and then moves to his end step, untapping the Gilded Lotus with a Voltaic Servant trigger. Marie draws and plays a Blast Zone, putting a counter onto it as it comes in. She then copies the Dreamstone Hedron again with the Mirage Mirror to make an extra mana, and then pays to equip the Fire Shaker with Kozilek. She follows up by casting All Is Dust. They then sacrifice all the colored permanents, and the Bronze Guardian gets exiled from the Stone of Reach. The Yosei dies, tapping down Max's Plains, Gilded Lotus, Shadow Sphere, Voltaic Servant, and Lightning Greaves, while also making Max skip his next untap step. And we then remember that Marie's actually supposed to cascade 2 more times. She hits Ugin the Ineffable, and a Steel Hellkite, and then moves to combat once they're out. She swings her Commander and Kozilek at Felix to take him out, and then once that's done, moves to her second main phase. She upticks Ugin, she makes a Spirit Token and exiles a card face down to it, and after that, passes to Seb. Seb draws and plays Bojuka Bog, exiling Max's graveyard. Seb then replays Alela and passes. Max skips his untap and draws, but with nothing to do, passes. Marie plays a Bonder's Enclave, and once more upticks Ugin to make a spirit token. Once that's done, she casts Titan's Presence, which has a revealing Soul of New Phyrexia. She then makes a Mirage Mirror copy of Steel Hellkite. Moving to combat, Marie swings Kozilek at Max, and everything else at Seb. Max at this point dies to the hit, and Marie pumps a bunch of times into the Steel Hellkite, and Seb drops down to 13. With nothing else, she passes. Seb's got an island for turn, and they pass, leaving their mana open. Marie draws and goes straight to calling Seb's bluff, swinging all out. Seb flashes in a thrilling encore, which unfortunately does nothing for them, and Marie wins in combat. And Marie takes them out in combat, winning the game. Game review time. This game was 53 minutes and 20 seconds, with Marie sweeping it up at the end. I was really surprised to see a pre-con deck do as well as she did, but I think she had a couple things that worked in our favor. First, that All Is Dust is really a one-sided board wipe against all of her opponents, and second, it seemed like Maxim and Felix were focused on each other as they were the only two at the table with decks that they'd built themselves. In Seb's case, playing the pre-con didn't really pay off, as they didn't get to do a whole heck of a lot. I'm glad they at least got to cast Alela once, and we got to see them goad some creatures, but beyond that, we only saw a handful of cool cards, although that Malleable Imposter seems like a really strong clone. Felix's Cadric deck was about to get nasty, as Yosei is never a good time for anyone, especially with Cadric. That meant 2 players are going to get locked down, so I don't blame Max for using the removal. And in the same breath, I don't blame Felix for locking down Max. Having Birthing Pod for artifacts in your command zone is very powerful, and although we didn't see any huge pieces out, that doesn't take very long for that kind of deck to assemble them. This video wouldn't be possible without the help from my sponsors, Cool Stuff Inc., Multizone, Original Magic Art, and Alter Sleeves. But it definitely wouldn't be possible without the help from you, the viewers, and my patrons. So I just want to say thank you for watching, and to remember, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.